Assalamu alaikum class. Today we will start with the hearing physiology. By the end of this topic, these should be your learning objectives. That you should be able to describe the components and functions of external, middle, and inner ear. Um, Explain the roles of tympanic membrane and the auditory ossicles in sound transmission. You should be able to describe the way uh, that movements of molecules in the air they are converted into impulses generated in hair cells in the cochlea. Also, you should be able to explain how pitch and loudness they are coded in the auditory pathways. And you should be able to describe the components of auditory pathway from right from the cochlear hair cells to the cerebral cortex. Now, what is hearing or audition? Hearing is the neural perception of sound energy, and it involves two aspects: what and where. Based on this definition or introduction, auditory system has certain functions which are identification and localization of sound and ultimately the communication. If you're talking about sound identification, it would mean what is it? What is the frequency and intensity of this sound? And then you have to localize the sound, that from where it is coming. And this function is performed by the auditory system through analyzing two differences, which are interaural timing difference and interaural frequency difference. So these were the main functions of auditory system. The organ which is used by audition or for hearing, that is ear, as you all know. And ear consists of external, middle, and inner ear. The neural receptors for hearing, they are present in the inner ear. Now we will look at the functions of ear as a whole. Ear has dual function because the inner ear it contains two contiguous hair cell based sensory systems. The two functions which your ear performs are hearing the mechanical vibrations of sound, for which your auditory system uses hair cells to to transduce the vibrations which are generated by the sound waves. And the second function is maintaining equilibrium, both while moving and while staying still. For this purpose, the vestibular system it uses hair cells to transduce the head movements. So these were the overall functions of ear. Now we will have a look of at the functions of ear part wise. External ear collects and transfers the sound waves to the middle ear, while middle ear it transfers the vibrations of tympanic membrane to the fluid which is present in the cochlea. Inner ear, which is the main part, it houses the sensory system for hearing. Then again, the inner ear it also has vestibular apparatus which houses the sensory systems for equilibrium, and it provides input which is essential for maintaining the posture and balance, right? So that was the brief overview of the organ of hearing and the sense of hearing as a whole. Now we will start with the physiology of hearing. What is sound? Sound is a form of energy, and it is a traveling vibration of air molecules parallel to the direction of propagation. Sound wave consists of alternate regions of compression and rarefaction of air molecules. As you can see in this diagram, there are regions of compression here, and then there are areas of rarefaction where the air molecules they are quite dispersed. Any device that produce such pattern of vibrations that becomes a source of sound. Here in this figure, you can easily see the areas of compression of air molecule and the areas where the air molecules they are dispersed. So the sound wave that consists of these alternate regions of compression and rarefaction. Let's have a look at some more sound facts. The velocity of sound it depends on the medium through which the sound waves they are passing. For example, in air, the velocity is around 330 to 332 meters per second. So, what's your guess? What would be the velocity of sound in water? Will it be greater or lower? That's a question for you. Take it as an assignment. Then, another fact is that sound waves they need a medium for conduction. So the sound waves they cannot pass through vacuum, and that's a relief because otherwise we would be hearing the cosmic blasts taking place in space. All right. The sound waves they move at constant speed unless there are certain conditions that unless they are moving through different mediums or they are moving in mediums of different temperatures or unless the source creating the sound that is moving, for example a moving train or a moving ambulance, etc. In that case, the change in the speed, that is perceived pitch due to moving source, and this effect, this is called a Doppler shift, right? Now we will have a look at certain characteristics of sound, which are pitch, intensity, and timbre. And these characteristics they are perceived only by an auditory analyzer. So the three characteristics we will look into detail of which these are pitch, intensity, and timbre. What is pitch? Pitch measures the frequency of vibrations of source of sound waves. So basically pitch is vibrating cycles per second, right? A higher pitch means greater frequency, and that actually means that more waves they are crammed into uh, each second of time. The pitch is expressed in hertz. The audible range of sound frequency, that is from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. The term infrasound, it refers to the frequencies below 16 hertz, while ultrasound refers to the frequencies above 20,000 hertz. And you know that ultrasound that is used to study the internal structure and morphology of the organs. Now, this pitch discrimination that is best analyzed in 1000 to 3000 hertz range. Interestingly, children and women they have a high pitch sound as compared to males. The average conversation voice frequency that is around 120 hertz in males and 250 hertz in females. Moreover, sound waves they can be absorbed by objects in the surrounding. Higher frequencies which are having smaller wavelengths they are absorbed more than the lower frequencies. Now while we are studying or discussing this certain characteristic of sound, the pitch, there is a phenomenon which I would like to tell you that is called masking phenomenon. The presence of one sound decreases an individual's ability to hear other sounds. And this phenomenon is known as masking phenomenon. In this phenomenon, the degree to which one sound masks other, that is related to the pitch of the sound. And the significance of this masking phenomenon is that this effect, the masking effect of the background noise, that raises the auditory threshold. Now, what is this auditory threshold? How do you define auditory threshold? It is the sound level below which a healthy person's ear that is unable to detect any sound. And keep in mind that it is quite different for different frequencies. The auditory threshold will be different for higher frequencies from the lower frequencies. And a threshold shift, that is an increase in the hearing threshold for a particular sound frequency. So that was about auditory threshold and the masking phenomenon. Now we jump on to the next characteristic of sound, which is the intensity of sound. It is the measure of the loudness of the sound waves, and it depend on the amplitude of the wave. Basically, it describes that how much energy a wave is carrying. If the wave is carrying more energy, the amplitude will be higher and the wave will be taller. So, intensity depend on the pressure difference between the regions of compression and rarefaction. Remember, I told you that the sound wave that consists of alternate regions of compression and rarefaction. So the pressure difference, which is existing between these two regions, because in the area of rarefaction there will be minimum pressure, and in the area of compression there will be highest pressure. The difference that determines the intensity of the sound wave. Within the hearing range, if the intensity of the sound wave is greater, then the sound will be louder. And the sound intensity, it is measured in a unit which is called decibel. Our ordinary conversation at 6 to 8 feet, that is held at 50 to 60 decibels. All right, so when I'm telling you this intensity thing, there is another effect which I would like to mention, that is called the binaural effect. Now, what is this binaural effect? The ability to detect the position of the source of sound with both ears, that is called binaural effect. For example, when we want to localize a sound which is coming from a distance, we uh, we turn our head until the sound is equally loud in two ears. So the direction in which we are facing, that is the direction of sound's origin. Okay. And one more thing, which could be your Viva question, is the sound reference, a standard sound reference. Uh, it means the, you can say, faintest audible sound. And it corresponds to 0 decibel at a certain pressure. That pressure level is around very, very 0. Maybe 0.0002 dynes per square centimeter. Anyway, so this sound reference, this is basically the minimum sound intensity that can be perceived by a normal person, right? Keep in mind that a 0 decibel sound, that is not inaudible, but it is just audible. Okay. All right, so that was about the pitch and the loudness. Uh, Another characteristic of sound, that is timbre. This property refers to the sensation perceived when we hear a mixture of the related frequencies. Uh, it is the quality of the sound which depend upon overtones. Now, what are overtones? Overtones are basically the additional frequencies which are superimposed on the fundamental tone. You can see in the diagram. I give you an example that the same note which is played on different musical instruments, that is perceived or it sound differently. So it is this quality of the sound, the timbre, which enables the listener to distinguish the source of the sound wave. Uh, right. So I think this should be enough for now. And next time we will start with the physiologic anatomy of ear. If you have any questions, you can ask me directly and we can discuss that.